1 Samuel 25. Samuel's death. Then Samuel died, and all Israel assembled and mourned for him, and they buried him at his house in Ramah. And David set out and went down to the wilderness of Paran. Nabal and Abigail. Now there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel, and the man was very rich, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. And it came about while he was shearing his sheep in Carmel, now the man's name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. And the woman was intelligent and beautiful in appearance, but the man was harsh and evil in his dealings, and he was a Calebite, that David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel and visit Nabal and greet him in my name. And this is what you shall say: Have a long life, peace to you, and peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now then, I have heard that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us. We have not harmed them, nor has anything of theirs gone missing all the days they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we have come on a festive day. Please give whatever you find at hand to your servants and to your son David." When David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal in accordance with all these words in David's name. Then they waited. But Nabal answered David's servants and said, "Who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants today who are each breaking away from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat that I have slaughtered for my shearers, and give it to men whose origin I do not know?" So David's young men made their way back and returned, and they came and informed him in accordance with all these words. Then David said to his men, "Each of you strap on his sword." So each man strapped on his sword. And David also strapped on his sword, and about 400 men went up behind David, while 200 stayed with the baggage. Now one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, "Behold, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, and he spoke to them in anger. Yet the men were very good to us, and we were not harmed, nor did anything go missing as long as we went with them while we were in the fields. They were a wall to us both by night and by day, all the time we were with them tending the sheep. Now then, be aware and consider what you should do, because harm is plotted against our master and against all his household, and he is such a worthless man that no one can speak to him." Abigail intercedes. Then Abigail hurried and took 200 loaves of bread and 2 jugs of wine, and 5 sheep already prepared, and 5 measures of roasted grain, and 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and she loaded them on donkeys. Then she said to her young men, "Go on ahead of me. Behold, I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. And it happened as she was riding on her donkey and coming down by the hidden part of the mountain, that behold, David and his men were coming down toward her, so she met them. Now David had said, "It is certainly for nothing that I have guarded everything that this man has in the wilderness, so that nothing has gone missing of all that belonged to him. For he has returned me evil for good. May God do so to the enemies of David, and more so, if by morning I leave alive as much as one male of any who belong to him." When Abigail saw David, she hurried and dismounted from her donkey, and fell on her face in front of David and bowed herself to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "On me alone, my lord, be the blame. And please let your slave speak to you, and listen to the words of your slave. Please do not let my lord pay attention to this worthless man, Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and stupidity is with him, but I your slave did not see the young men of my lord whom you sent. Now then, my lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, since the Lord has restrained you from shedding blood, and from avenging yourself by your own hand, now then, may your enemies, and those who seek evil against my lord, be like Nabal. And now let this gift which your servant has brought to my lord be given to the young men who accompany my lord. Please forgive the offense of your slave, For the Lord will certainly make for my Lord an enduring house, because my Lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil will not be found in you all your days. Should anyone rise up to pursue you and to seek your life, then the life of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living with the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will sling out as from the hollow of a sling. And when the Lord does for my Lord in accordance with all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and appoints you ruler over Israel, this will not become an obstacle to you, or a troubled heart to my Lord, both by having shed blood without cause and by my Lord's having avenged himself. When the Lord deals well with my Lord, then remember your slave. Then David said to Abigail, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me, and blessed be your discernment, and blessed be you, who have kept me this day from bloodshed and from avenging myself by my own hand. Nevertheless, as the Lord God of Israel lives, who has restrained me from harming you, if you had not come quickly to meet me, there certainly would not have been left to Nabal until the morning light as much as one male. So David accepted from her hand what she had brought him, and said to her, Go up to your house in peace. See, I have listened to you and granted your request. Then Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was having a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was cheerful within him, for he was very drunk, so she did not tell him anything at all until the morning light. But in the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him so that he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. David marries Abigail. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be the Lord, who has pleaded the cause of the shame inflicted on me by the hand of Nabal, and has kept back his servant from evil. The Lord has also returned the evil-doing of Nabal on his own head. Then David sent a proposal to Abigail to take her as his wife. When the servants of David came to Abigail at Carmel, they spoke to her, saying, David has sent us to you to take you to him as his wife. And she got up and bowed with her face to the ground, and said, Behold, your slave is a servant to wash the feet of my Lord's servants. Then Abigail got up quickly and rode on a donkey, with her 5 female attendants who accompanied her, and she followed the messengers of David and became his wife. David had also taken Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they both became his wives. But Saul had given his daughter Michal, David's wife, to Palti the son of Laish, who was from Galilee. 1 Samuel 26. David again spares Saul. Then the Ziphites came to Saul at Gibeah, saying, Is David not keeping himself hidden on the hill of Hachilah, which is opposite Jeshimon? So Saul set out and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, taking with him 3,000 chosen men of Israel, to search for David in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul camped on the hill of Hachilah, which is opposite Jeshimon, beside the road, and David was staying in the wilderness. When he saw that Saul had come after him into the wilderness, David sent out spies, and he learned that Saul was definitely coming. David then set out and came to the place where Saul had camped. And David saw the place where Saul lay, and Abner the son of Ner, the commander of his army, and Saul was lying in the circle of the camp, and the people were camped around him. Then David said to Ahimelech the Hittite and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul in the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with you. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping inside the circle of the camp with his spear stuck in the ground at his head, and Abner and the people were lying around him. Then Abishai said to David, Today God has handed your enemy over to you. Now then, please let me pin him with the spear to the ground with one thrust, and I will not do it to him a second time. But David said to Abishai, Do not kill him, for who can reach out with his hand against the Lord's anointed and remain innocent? David also said, As the Lord lives, the Lord certainly will strike him, or his day will come that he dies, or he will go down in battle and perish. The Lord forbid that I would reach out with my hand against the Lord's anointed. But now please take the spear that is at his head and the jug of water, and let's go. So David took the spear and the jug of water that were at Saul's head, and they left, and no one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone awaken, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord had fallen on them. Then David crossed over to the other side and stood on top of the mountain at a distance with a large area between them. And David called to the people and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, "Will you not answer, Abner?" Then Abner replied, "Who are you who calls to the king?" So David said to Abner, "Are you not a man? And who is like you in Israel? Why then have you not guarded your lord the king? For one of the people came to kill the king your lord. This thing that you have done is not good. As the Lord lives, all of you undoubtedly must die, because you did not guard your Lord, the Lord's anointed. And now, see where the king's spear is and the jug of water that was at his head." Then Saul recognized David's voice and said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" And David said, "It is my voice, my lord the king." He also said, "Why then is my lord pursuing his servant? For what have I done? Or what evil is in my hand? Now then, please let my lord the king listen to the words of his servant. If the Lord has incited you against me, may he accept an offering. But if it is people, cursed are they before the Lord, because they have driven me out today so that I would have no share in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, 'Go, serve other gods.' Now then, do not let my blood fall to the ground far from the presence of the Lord, for the king of Israel has come out to search for a single flea, just as one hunts a partridge in the mountains." Then Saul said, "I have sinned. Return, my son David, for I will not harm you again, since my life was precious in your sight this day. Behold, I have played the fool and have made a very great mistake." David replied, "Behold, the spear of the king. Now have one of the young men come over and take it. And the Lord will repay each man for his righteousness and his faithfulness, for the Lord handed you over to me today, but I refused to reach out with my hand against the Lord's anointed. Therefore, behold, just as your life was highly valued in my sight this day, so may my life be highly valued in the sight of the Lord, and may he rescue me from all distress." Then Saul said to David, "Blessed are you, my son David. You will both accomplish much and assuredly prevail." So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. 1 Samuel 27. David flees to the Philistines. Then David said to himself, "Now I will perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than to safely escape into the land of the Philistines. Then Saul will despair of searching for me any more in all the territory of Israel, and I will escape from his hand." So David set out and went over, he and the 600 men who were with him, to Achish the son of Mauch, king of Gath. And David lived with Achish in Gath, he and his men, each with his own household, David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's widow. Now it was reported to Saul that David had fled to Gath, so he no longer searched for him. Then David said to Achish, "If now I have found favor in your sight, have them give me a place in one of the cities in the country, so that I may live there. For why should your servant live in the royal city with you?" So Achish gave him Ziklag that day. Therefore Ziklag has belonged to the kings of Judah to this day. The number of days that David lived in the country of the Philistines was 1 year and 4 months. Now David and his men went up and attacked the Jeshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites, for they were the inhabitants of the land from ancient times, as you come to Shur, even as far as the land of Egypt. David attacked the land and did not leave a man or a woman alive, and he took the sheep, the cattle, the donkeys, the camels, and the clothing. Then he returned and came to Achish. Now Achish said, "Where did you carry out an attack today?" And David said, "Against the Negev of Judah, against the Negev of the Jerahmeelites, and against the Negev of the Kenite." And David did not leave a man or a woman alive to bring to Gath, saying, "Otherwise they will tell about us," saying, "This is what David has done, and this has been his practice all the time that he has lived in the country of the Philistines." So Achish believed David, saying, "He has undoubtedly made himself repulsive among his people Israel. Therefore, he will become my servant forever."